Welcome to episode 8. I hope it's episode 8, and I haven't just filmed episode 8 a day ago. That would be embarrassing. I'm pretty sure it is episode 8. And today I'm joined by Lee, and I will get you to introduce yourself in a moment, mate. But it is customary before we get started that we cheers the mojito. I can see yours there ready. So we'll do a cheers to that and have a little swig.
I haven't got the straw.
No, I mean, I go all out of my mojitos. It's a shame you couldn't make it in because when I make them, firstly they're particularly strong, but I go all out when I'm making the mojitos. We get a straw and everything. The only thing missing actually is the little cocktail umbrella. I think I need to get some of those. but yeah, thanks for coming on. It's an absolute pleasure, and I know there's a lot that we're going to have to get into and to discuss today. But before we get started, why not introduce yourself to everybody? Tell us a bit about yourself and where people can find you on social media if they don't already follow you.
Okay, yeah. So my name's Lee Donaldson, and I'm an actor and stuntman, and also PT and online coach, and I am now also a filmmaker. So I'm about to shoot my second film, which is an action horror short, in mid-Feb. Obviously with a team of 30 plus people. So I've got 2 accounts on social media. One is Amiga One Fitness. That's my brand for obviously everything related to health and fitness and whatnot with clients and just general stuff. And then for the performance side, it's Lee AD Artist.
Amazing. So yeah, there's a lot that we're going to get into today. But I'd like to start with just understanding your journey, because like you said there, you know, obviously PT, online coach, now moving into the world of obviously actor, stuntman, and filmmaker, which is quite the transition. So talk us through that journey, how you came about as a coach, and how that's transitioned to making movies.
Yeah, so my background is in studying sports science. Did it at college, did it at uni. Always liked sports at school, so I've always been a physical person. Naturally, just felt like a good person to coach others. So I always found myself being like a team leader or a captain of a sports team or something like that. And just gradually, as I got older, and then wanted to share more of the passion, which I'm sure you're the same for health and fitness and nutrition and whatnot. Yeah. It was a natural transition to start coaching and working with people. And you know, that obviously was part and parcel with my degree and my other education for that. But then I just enjoyed working with people. And obviously for myself as an individual, as like doing sports and different types of disciplines, I just wanted to become better. However, I felt slightly capped with what I could do as an athlete physically, and I wanted to try to push and test my body limits more. And for most of my friends and network, a lot of them went into things like bodybuilding or you know, powerlifting, and there was a brief moment where I was going to compete in both disciplines as well. But I actually decided to apply my physicality and my confidence into stunts, because it's adrenaline based, right? So you know, people are put under pressure and extreme conditions to perform whatever the stunt may be, and I thought, well, I have the confidence and the physical ability to do this. How do I navigate and work myself into that world? So I left my corporate job in 2019 in London, and since it'll be 5 years in February, I went self-employed, and I decided to focus purely on my PT and coaching again. Because I had a little break whilst I was obviously doing the corporate stuff, and then also pursue the stunts. And as I started doing more and more like work on sets, I became just as interested in the acting. And like many of us know, that not all actors are action actors or stunt actors, but you know, you've got the likes of Keanu Reeves or Tom Cruise, Jackie Chan, people like that. They're I look up to them always and thought, you know, these guys are they're proper athletes. You know, they're not just acting, but they are athletes, and the balls they have and courage to do some of the stunts and action sequences. I thought, I want to apply myself in that manner. You know, I feel like it's another level of talent and skill and I'm a very skill-based person and very much about upskilling and learning and evolving. And I felt within the gym environment, I'd done that. I'd learned enough, you know, and hence why I teach others, to teach them what I know for 18, 20 years now. But I was like, how can I keep learning? How can I keep challenging myself? So I thought stunts would be the ideal solution to that, you know, because I'm never going to stop learning there. Never have to be, never, every day is going to be different. Every project, every role. So
yeah, 100%. And it's, there's not really a ceiling on stunts, is there? There's the boundaries in that industry are being pushed literally week on week. So it's an ever evolving industry to be in. So I think it makes perfect sense. You know, naturally as humans, those of us that are quite competitive and have kind of grown up in sporting environments, been part of sports teams, typically we're ambitious. We're very driven to push ourselves. You know, if you're a true competitive person, you're never happy with having success. You always want to better that success. So it doesn't matter. Yeah, and it doesn't matter what you've achieved previous. The goal is always to try and do more. And I think when you're in the fitness industry, and obviously you've been in this industry, like you said, for 18, 20 years.
Yeah.
You can hit a ceiling in that if you go down the physique route or you go down the lifting route, you are going to get to a point where you're pretty much maxing out on either what you can achieve from your physique and what you can achieve from there. And again, the drop off with physique competitions is obviously as we get older. Yes, there are other age categories, but you hit a point where you can't really do much more with how you physically look. People that are younger that are coming through are undoubtedly going to end up holding better condition through their 20s than we would in our 30s and 40s. So your life as a competitive physique athlete is limited, similar to strength athletes, to power athletes. Again, you're going to hit a point where you've pretty much maxed out all your lifts, and you can go and train really hard, and you might progress a little bit on, but there is a ceiling to both of those industries. And when you are competitive, if you feel like you've kind of hit that ceiling, a truly competitive person will die a bit from that perspective, because
they'll retire.
Because if you can't go further, if you physically have reached the limit, what have you got to keep pushing for? And it can be a catalyst for people to, like you said, to retire, to completely stop doing something that has given you so much purpose, and that can then become quite a difficult place to be from a mental health perspective. Whereas I think you've looked at it and you've kind of gone, actually, if I go down these routes, it's quite good fun, but you can almost see the finish line before you start, and you go, right, well, this has got a shelf life. Whereas you get into the world of stunts, and it's like, the possibilities are quite literally endless. So what's the craziest stunt that you've done?
Probably just jumping backwards onto an airbag at 20 meters high. Because
I don't even like heights.
I'm not into heights either. But you know, going forward is one thing, but going backwards, you know, and then also whilst midair, pretending you're shooting and being shot at, so you've got to perform whilst having the skill and know-how to control yourself in the air to not spin too much. And it's really scary, because you know you can really hurt yourself. You can also miss the bag and die. So, but that's the part of the adrenaline. And it was a great feeling to do it after, because it's like anything you mentioned, when you prove to yourself that you can do something you didn't think you could, especially if it's a fear, like you said, heights. It's a great achievement. I actually am going to be doing that stunt in the new film. Just going to give a little spoiler here for anyone listening, but I will also be on fire at the same time,
mate.
So I'm taking it to the next level now.
I mean, that's insane, to be honest with you. I was going to ask the question, do you find, obviously, when you're doing something like that, where you've got a fear of heights, you've obviously got all the logical and rational fear in terms of what could potentially go wrong. Do you find the fact that you've got to act whilst falling, so you're still having to like pretend like you're being shot at, act like you're shooting back, do you find that helps take the edge off of what you're actually doing, or does that make it harder?
Yeah. No, because you can obviously displace your mind and focus on something else at that moment. So it's helpful. If you was doing, let's say, I know, for example, Sense Parks and places like PGL for children's summer camps, they do like high falls and sometimes like from platforms. But it's one of those things where everyone's watching you, you're under pressure, and you're in your own head. The only objective for that person is to do it or not, right? Obviously, for me, as you mentioned, when I'm adding the performance, it helps me to think like more objectively in that moment and go, well, I've got to focus on that. So I can't be overthinking there with fear.
Yeah.
But again, sometimes that can still get the better of you. We're all human. That there'll be experiences people have where they think, I've done this a million times, and for some reason that day they just get more anxious or overthink or more scared, and that obviously can play mind games. But I think always having that other focus where you've got a performance side of it, it definitely does help to reduce that stress or that worry.
Yeah, it just brings like you said, that a different element to it where your focus isn't purely on just the stunt itself. Because I imagine if it was just purely on the stunt, there's a lot more capacity to I guess you could look at it either way. There's more capacity to kind of psych yourself up for it. Equally, there's more capacity to make yourself more anxious about it when you've just got the one thing to do. I watched the I don't know if you watched Rob versus Ramesh.
I've seen it, yeah.
Have you seen the Stunts episode that they do?
Yeah.
It was brilliant. It was a great insight, to be fair, into that world, and some of the things that they like the phrases that were kind of used in terms of everything you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear. Was one of the phrases that I took from that, which I thought was absolutely brilliant, because I think in life in general, people more often than not don't achieve what they want to, not because of failure itself, but because of the fear of what could go wrong. Too many people look at things as a what if this goes wrong, what if that goes wrong, what if this doesn't happen, what if this doesn't work, and ultimately end up stuck in the state of quo. Perhaps maybe it's from a fitness perspective, they don't apply themselves as much as they could through fear of injury or fear of failure. Maybe from a professional perspective, people stay in jobs they don't like because they're scared of what happens if I leave and then the new job doesn't work out. Whereas I guess from your perspective, you're kind of demonstrating quite brilliantly on so many levels that actually if you embrace that fear of what if and you channel it and you tackle it head on, the reality is 99 times out of 100 you're going to come out the other side and it's going to be the best experience. Whether that's like you said, you've been in the industry 18-20 years. From a fitness perspective, you went into the corporate world for a bit and you then decided to move away from that, go back to coaching, then transition from that into stunts, into acting. And I think if you listen to the fear of failure at any of those points, you'd probably still be perhaps in the corporate world, thinking, it would be great to be a stuntman. So it would be great to understand a little bit more from you in terms of what that felt like, that journey, in terms of what was your turning point for you to decide, actually, do you know what, corporate life isn't for me, I'm going to go back to fitness, or equally, the same question, but also to that point when you were like, actually, I'm an online coach, but I'm now going to transition into the world of stunts and filmmaking. What was that like?
So with the corporate role, like, let's face it, almost every job in the world is sales driven in some way or another. Every company wants to make money. That's how they run. So, and if you're a competitive person, like you said, like an athlete, or perhaps you've always just had a competitive edge, when you go into the corporate world, and you're young, especially as a graduate, it can make you hungry to make lots of money, right? You want to get a house, you want to do this, you want to do that. However, you're capped for a long time unless somehow you accelerate in your career. But for most people, it can take 5 to 10 years or more even. And I thought to myself, no matter how much money I can make in this role, and no matter how much I apply my energy, my focus, my skills to this company, it's not what I want to do. Ultimately, I don't have any passion for this. It's not my company. It's not my brand. It's not helping the world. It's just business, business to business. And don't get me wrong, there were perks, and some people were like, "Oh, you're crazy. Why would you leave that job and do what you're doing?" And I said, "Well, because I'm not happy. Do you not get it? Yeah. I was like, in life, which is short, and we are have our mortality. I was like, why would I want to just keep doing this in my prime? Yeah, in my prime years, like mid to late 20s, when I could be doing things that may or may not work out, but it doesn't matter. At that point in time, I had no children. I have a son now, but I had no children. I wasn't married, no mortgage at that point. It was like, why would I not do that? You know, the worst that can happen is I won't enjoy it, it won't work out, and I'll go back to a different role and then navigate again. You know, there's always in life we pivot all the time, you know, and we take different directions. So for me, I just had that inner belief that I was destined for more, and I was hungry for more, and I wasn't getting that fulfillment from my current role in the corporate world, and even headhunters who offer me other roles on LinkedIn. I thought, this just sounds like nothing, like not fulfilling. Yeah. For some, it sounds like someone who wants to play it safe. And there's no issues with that. If people are happy doing that, they're 9 to 5, their normal salary, fine. But I just always felt that no company in the world could offer me the role I wanted. I kept speaking to employers, I kept speaking to headhunters, and I was like, negotiating. I thought, no, like no matter how much money and holiday you offer me, it's not what I want to do. You know?
Yeah, I completely get that.
Yeah. So I then decided, right, well, I will go back into my passion and my love, which has always been teaching people. You know, I teach children, I coach children, I teach adults. I've got a very broad spectrum of clients, always have done. And I was like, I want to go back to that, but I also want to have another side of my life and character, which is pursuing my childhood dream, which is actually to be an actor and stunt performer. So, and that decision was key for me, a turning point in my life, because I thought, this is what I'm going to do now. Yeah, I'm not. There's no going back. So, like I said, 5 years in February. And I think to summarize that, the key point was what really dawned on me. One day I was meeting a client in London, and I work with very large clients, like big corporate retailers like Harrods and whatnot. So I spoke to a manager, a buyer, and he just said to me one day, can I ask you something, Lee? And I said, oh, what's that? And he was like, what are you doing in this job? And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, well, you just don't seem like the type of person who should be doing this job. And I asked him to elaborate, but he's like, just think about it. Yeah. And then it really like hit me, because I went back on the train after into the city, and I was like, is he basically saying to me that I'm too good for this role, or I should be pursuing different things? You know, because when I reflect and look back, and I think to myself, I was not too good for that role, but it was not for me. Yeah. And I was probably wasting my time when I could have been pursuing my actual passions and goals and real life experiences, rather than just doing the monotonous meetings, this traveling, blah blah blah. So he really got in my head, and I think he made me like reevaluate that I was probably wasting my time.
And I think it happens to so many people. I was exactly the same. So I worked in the corporate space from the age of 19 right the way through. So I've been self-employed 5 years this month as well. So I left my corporate job December 2019. And I was the same. I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do, but you just forged so far down the career path. I was selling software to the NHS and public sector. I had no interest in what I was actually doing. I enjoyed 6-hour jaunts on the motorway, listening to all my favorite music, having a private gig in my BMW. That was the only perk of my job as far as I was concerned. That and it paid ridiculously well. And I genuinely for ages just thought it's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to get into coaching. I wanted to go down the route that I'm doing now, but I always just thought, well, I'm paid too well to leave. And I ended up falling out with the company that I was working for. I'd been there nearly 10 years. There were a series of things that they did that were ethically questionable at best, and that really pissed me off. So I got offered a new job, and I thought, you know what, this place has done my head in. So I left, and I genuinely, naively believed that it was the company that was the issue, and that if I go and do the same job for somebody else, I'll rediscover my fire in my belly to go and make as much money as physically possible. And I went and worked for a new company I was there about 18 months, and by the end of it, I was like, I just don't care. Like they could triple my salary. They could put me on £1 million a year, and whilst I might work a little bit harder for the first few months, I will very quickly settle straight back into the same headspace of the money's great, I hate the fucking job. And I was fortunate in a way that the company I was working for got bought by a larger business. I had a sneaking suspicion there were going to be job losses as a result, in terms of they didn't need two reasonably large sales teams. So they were going to be getting rid of people. I had a one-to-one with my MD that made me think, okay, I've not been here 2 years yet. I'm an easy head to lose. The pressure suddenly came out of nowhere to achieve exceptional results. It literally by the following month, and I thought, I have a funny feeling I know where this is going, and I just used it as my opportunity. I thought, fuck it, it's you either walk into your next one-to-one and you get told you've got a month's notice and you panic and you think, shit, where am I going to get another job? Or you prepare yourself for it. And I'd been coaching alongside my job for just over a year, and I thought, you know what, fuck it, like, this is my opportunity. So I rocked up to my one-to-one and just gave my notice in instead, and didn't look back. And it's, again, bringing it back to the stunt side of things, it's that everything you've dreamed of is on the opposite side of fear. My missus, it's still to this day, everything's worked out particularly well, but she's still like, I don't know that I would have done it the way that you did it. She's like, I think I would have waited until we had like savings, money in the bank, like to be in a substantially better off, footing with financial security before getting rid of your job. I was like, yeah, but at the same time, sometimes when you put yourself in a position where it's sink or swim, if you're a competitive person, the reality is you're going to do whatever it takes to swim.
Exactly. And it can't always be favourable conditions, can it, in life? So you just...
No, I think there's a phrase that I always hear from people, and it's like, the ship is safest at the port, but that's not what a ship's built for. It's stormy seas make better sailors, and it's true. If you're forever waiting for perfect conditions, you're never going to get them. There's always going to be something that's not quite right. But the reality is you've just got to commit to it, and you've just got to make the best of it. And excuse me. And something that you said really resonated in terms of when there is a better alternative, there is a better life, there is greater passions that you could be pursuing.
Yeah,
that for me it was the biggest thing. I knew hand on heart with what I was doing that if I carried on doing that for the rest of my career, I would just become the most miserable person in the world. And I can be a grumpy bastard at the best of times. I'm certain that I'm a pensioner in a young man's body at times. But if this is me now, mid to late 20s, already fairly sort of disgruntled with the majority of the society around me, like fast forward 30 years more in this job, and I'll have blown my brains out by then. And it's... I just knew that there has to be more to life than that, and I think that was definitely something I took from what you were saying. In terms of, you get to that point and it's a turning point, and you have to make a decision. And obviously, thankfully for yourself, you made that decision. You went back to coaching, and then started to pursue things. So you said obviously you've got a movie that you're just about to start filming on. And you've got another film that obviously is already out. So talk us through the first film first.
Yeah, so the first film, so basically I had like in my mind for about 2 years, like an idea for a story. It was very much like Guy Ritchie vibes, like Snatch sort of thing, like British gangsters. And I really wanted to give myself and other actors and stunt performers a platform to really showcase who they are and what they can do. Because this industry is very much a gatekeeping industry, and a lot of the time, unless certain people recognize you at a certain stage of your development, they won't give you those opportunities to shine unless you get somehow cast or booked for a role. So, because let's face it, everyone's a trainee the whole time. You're never, I mean, unless you're really at the top of your top of the pecking order of your industry, you're still kind of like learning. So
Yeah,
People
well,
always
it's an industry where it's very rare that roles are written for a specific person.
exactly, yeah,
Even when you're top actors,
yeah,
a lot of the roles that these guys land are not roles that have been written for them.
yeah,
They're roles that have come up in films that they still have to audition for. Like it's one of those
exactly.
industries where it very rarely people come to you,
Yeah.
no matter what level you've reached.
So if you look at examples of Stallone with Rocky,
Yeah,
yeah, so Rocky is my prime example, and I spoke to people about this one before I made Jack on Hyde, which is the first film. Um, he had character, as we know. He said only I can play him, no one else, because they wanted Richard Gere. I don't know if you know about that, but the production company say, "Oh yeah, we'll pay you for the scripts, but Richard Gere, he can play Rocky." And he was like, "No, no, 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 no. I play Rocky. He's my character. It's me." Yeah. And this man knew, as a writer, an actor, a stunt performer, a producer, and everything else that he brought to the table. He was like, I need to show the world who I am through this character. So and no one is writing me this character, or no one is casting me for a similar role. So I need to force that in the world. I need to get it
yeah,
out there. And that's exactly what he did. And Quentin Tarantino, the same scenario, but from a director perspective. He wasn't getting the jobs he needed to learn up skills. So a little bit of controversy. He stole credits. I don't know if you're aware of that, but he
no,
stole credit. Yeah, he stole when he was starting out. He stole credits of little companies who give him opportunity to get on set and learn. And then he started shooting his own things. He's like, well, look, no one's letting me work with them and get good credits. So why don't I just make my own really good high quality work and then eventually get noticed for it? So I thought to myself, I'm going to do a combination of what they've both done. So
yeah,
I'm going to be director, writer, and producer and actor, because I feel, even though I've had some really good roles, I've had some good acting roles, some good little stunt roles. I still felt at that point this time last year, because we shot last March for Jack on Hyde, that I needed to showcase myself better. And I wanted to do that with other people I've met on the journey. So I pitched to quite a few people. I said, look, I've got this idea. Would you want to invest with me? Like, it's got to be self-funded, obviously. You know, we can't just go and ask someone for a bunch of money. We're nobodies. No one knows us really, you know,
yeah,
and we're indie. So, and any type of short film is like Dragon's Den. There's no return of investment.
mm,
Only feature films or TV pilots get the funding because the investors can see there might be a return there. Yeah.
yeah,
So it was a passion project, but I would call it the ultimate workshop and the ultimate showreel. So I pitched my idea to the directors who I've met and worked with in the past, and they loved it, and they were like, "Okay, we'll shoot your film for you, but you're in charge. You do everything." So I did the casting, I did the budget, I had to get the money, I had to get locations, I had to do catering, I had to do everything. Yeah. As well as writing the script,
yeah.
which
I bet that was
yeah,
I bet that was
it was,
great, but also a massive eye opener because it's probably one of those when you, I've had, excuse me, I've had it with elements of like my business. So I wrote a book, I self-published a book at the start of last year,
yeah, I saw,
and it's one of
yeah.
those. You come up with an idea, and in your head you're like, oh yeah, that'll be really straightforward. I've just got to do X, Y, Z. And then as you start mapping it out, you realize that it's not just X, Y, Z, it's the full fucking alphabet. And there's
Yeah.
all these other elements to it. And then when you think you've worked it out and you go, okay, yeah, it's bigger than I thought it was, you then realize that it's not just the English alphabet, it's the fucking Dutch alphabet. It's it's every alphabet out there. And you suddenly sit there and you go, fuck, this is much bigger than I realized. But
What is it? But those things that you learn when you started writing the book, what were they? They were challenges, yeah.
Mm.
And as someone who's competitive and athletic and have a driven mind, that's what you need to latch onto. A challenge, yeah, and obstacles and things you need to learn, or perhaps relearn as well. So for me, I saw it as what I craved in my old role as an employed person. I craved a challenge and I craved excitement. Yeah. And I think, like you said in your previous role, you didn't have any excitement either. It was just the same thing churning around, right? So Yes, it was a little bit overwhelming initially with the amount of things I had to take on board on my own, and then learn and then apply. And then as the process went on, there was even more things that came up that I had to take care of. But everything that came up, I thought, this is great because I'm just learning more and more and more, and I'm enjoying it. And I'm not bored. I cannot get bored from doing what I'm doing. And then as I saw the vision from my head come to life when we went to the location and started filming, I was just like, this is amazing. This is the best feeling ever. And all these people are here because of me. Yeah. My vision, my planning, my ideas, my integrity, character, they're here for me. And it was a great feeling. Yeah. A very satisfying and rewarding feeling, and a real team. And people who are there collectively as fellow creatives or whoever may be, who all believe in each other and support one another. There was no clickiness, no fakeness, no corporate rubbish and bullshit. It was just real good people together trying to help one another out. Yeah. And we went on, so far we won 2 awards.
Amazing.
I got best actor, we got best direction as well. We've had 9 selections in the film festivals, and we've got 5 more festivals next year. We're waiting on to hear back if we've won or we're selected in these film festivals. So
that's absolutely awesome.
Yeah, and that was obviously our first one. So it's had a really good response. Most people have watched it. I can sound biased, but the reviews are very good. Whether you're Joe Blogs on the street, a performer yourself, a director, it doesn't matter who they are. People ultimately believe it. They believe the acting, they believe the story, they believe the set, the locations, and the key thing I wanted from it was for people to say, I want more. I want more. What's next? Yeah. So as a storyteller, I was like, I've done a good job here. But then, like you mentioned earlier, and always wanting more as a person, that's done. So I was thinking, what's next? Yeah. How can I eclipse this? How can I evolve and do more? So a couple of months ago, I pitched an idea I had to do a horror. Because Jekyll and Hyde, just so I've got to mention, Jekyll and Hyde is purely action, just gangsters fighting, guns, that type of thing, right?
Yeah.
But I was like, let's go into the horror category, because there's a massive cult following for horror films, But I still wanted to combine the action and showcase my team, whether they're returning members from the first film or they're new people added to the mix. Some really cool stunts, and that's and more guns as well. So this is where Joey, our mutual friend, he's coming on board. I'll give him a little shout out. He's obviously in the military, and which is great because we've got a tactical team in the film. So the new film's called Dead Zero. And like I mentioned, it's an action horror zombie film. There's a cast of 20-ish people at the moment, with a few people doing background as well as zombies. There's quite a large cast, but I've split the film into like 3 different storylines, all running alongside one another. So you as the viewer, you're viewing different scenarios and these different groups who eventually come together at the end. And yeah, we've got real firearms that fire blanks. We've got a grenade launcher. We've got some really cool cars. We've got really cool locations, like different locations in Hertfordshire, maybe Brighton as well. We're looking at a few options, and it's going to be double the length of the first film. So Jekyll and Hyde was 12 minutes. This will be about half an hour as a short. The budget is 4 times the amount. Jekyll and Hyde I managed to do, by the way, with £4,000 in 3 months turnaround. From pitching to filming to wrapping and post-production, did it in 3 months, which is normally unheard of. But I was tunnel vision, just get it done, And I also had goals that I wanted to submit to certain film festivals. And there's a cut-off period for submissions in the year for different ones. So the goal was always May. Now this one, as I mentioned, it's double the runtime. We're filming in mid-Feb. We're going to wrap, obviously, in March, and then we're going to finish it post-production for May. So again, we're going to submit it, but this time, because we're taking from Jekyll and Hyde, which has already done really well here, but we're going all the way up there for Dead Zero. we're going to submit to Cannes and then larger film festivals like that. We have big visions with this film, because my goal, like I mentioned briefly when we spoke on Instagram, is to actually now, as a filmmaker, secure funding to make feature films after this one.
Yeah.
And that's so I can continue as a person to keep writing interesting stories in different genres, but always action based. I am biased. I like action, and
I think you need to be, though, don't you? Because again, referring back to what we said before, you need to have your own passion in there.
Yeah.
And even though filmmaking is a passion for you, the reality is if you were offered the ability to make films that didn't set your didn't give you that fire in your belly, you're not going to do the best job, and you end up just swapping the reality that you had in the corporate world, where you can do a good job but you're not going to push yourself to your max because it doesn't challenge you. You just swap that reality to a different industry and you go, well, yeah, I'm now making films, but I'm making films I'm not really that passionate about, so I'm not really putting the effort in. So I think it makes sense that you keep at the forefront the bit that really makes you and sets that fire in your belly, so that each time you take on a project, you're going to give up everything of yourself to it because it's something that you actually enjoy and are passionate about. And
I'll always make a cameo as well. So so for Jekyll and Hyde, I was the lead, but in Dead Zero, I'm taking a back seat. I'm playing the main antagonist. I'm the evil villain at the end. I can't say any more than that. But I'm still in it, but I'm obviously going to be the climax as a performer, and that's why I'm doing the epic stunt I mentioned, right? But I want to always be invested in my film in that manner as well, because obviously as an actor and performer, I still want to be involved in those roles. But I very much, this is where, again, you and I are similar. I'm a businessman still at heart, yeah. So as much as I'm a creative person, my background is science and business and sports. So I apply those skills and knowledge to creative side. But again, what are we doing in filmmaking? We're making money, right? Netflix, Amazon, Disney, and so on. They're not doing it for fun. They're doing it to get money, content, and viewership, right? So this is why, for me, with my team that I've built from the first film to this new film, and hopefully thereafter, I'm going to continue to give those people opportunities through me, because we're bringing each other up on that journey. So, and we're all, the great thing about what we do in TV and film is that we're not in competition with each other. We're all so different, for castings. I don't look like this person and vice versa. So it always feels genuine and not competitive, because ultimately that person's going to be cast for a different role. They've got no hair, or that's a woman, or he's black, or whatever it may be, the differences. So that's what I love about this. And I think just from a business perspective, we're making this film to obviously show to distribution companies kind of where we're at as indie filmmakers, and the potential we have if they give us, for example, £1 million. That's really our goal after this film. So we're gonna package the two films together, send them off to various sales agents, distribution companies, and hopefully, fingers crossed, there'll be some interest, or at least there'll be interest in our scripts. So because I mentioned about the gatekeeping side of things in the industry. In any walk of life, you are capped, and some people don't believe in you and your vision. Right? They can think you're deluded. They can think you're a bit crazy, but in yourself what you can do, right? So you just need to get in the room with the right people at the right time, and then that's where things happen for you, wherever it may be in life. And sometimes you have to force that, and you have to shout about it and be self-promoting and just have that belief in yourself, because otherwise it will just never happen, right? And if I going back to what you said before about having the fear aspect, if I feared what would happen if I can't get this together, the first film wouldn't have happened. Like, it would just been an idea that stayed in my head, or maybe just it disappeared over time. But because of the belief and the lack of fear, I said, no, I'm fucking doing this. You know what I mean? And there's no going back now. People are invested and they want to do it, and so do I. So let's not make this just a casual conversation. Let's make it a reality. And then the same thing now again, but this time we're going even larger. So the crew is double, the cast is double the amount of people, like everything is double, if not tripled, in terms of intensity, workload, money, stress, pressure. But who cares? Who cares? It's what I love doing. You know, it's the challenge. And you know, you were saying a few things about people again believe in themselves. Michael Jackson is a great reference. Again, some people like him, some don't, for various reasons. I'm just going to quote him anyway. The famous interview when he just left the Jackson 5. I think he was, you know, late teens. And they said to him, like, oh, are you not like a bit worried that you won't be a successful solo artist? And he was like, no, because I have this belief that I just have this destiny about me. He literally said that. He said, I just know in myself that I've got this destiny. Yeah. So I don't need to have people's validation or their opinions of if I can do it. I will just systematically do these things over time, and then I'll show you my talent. Yeah. And I will deliver what I believe people will love. And that's obviously what I'm trying to do here with the filmmaking. And again, to bring those other people up with me, because those people sometimes lack the confidence. There's that. And I've got people I've met who are starting out, or perhaps they're really talented, but they just they're not confident enough to promote themselves or to be outgoing and network and reach out, and that's holding them back. So if they can have a platform, for example, like I had on Jekyll and Hyde or this new film, and it helps just to get them from here to here, they might get a new agent, they might get a big booking. For me, it's a great feeling, because it's like with clients, when we work with PT or online clients, when they've got that little new achievement, what a great feeling for you and I, because we did that, but they also, you can see how genuinely happy they are. And you see their mindset start to change a bit, and that's the most rewarding thing about it, ultimately.
100%. And again, like you said, drawing relevance to what we do as coaches, the biggest buzz that I get as a coach is not seeing somebody physically drop weight or see somebody physically lift heavier. It's the mindset changes. It's seeing somebody believe in themselves. It's seeing somebody change and overcome obstacles and behavior patterns and old habits that have held them back, and seeing them grow as an individual. That's the stuff that really matters as a coach, because that's the shit that you can't quantify it. You can't capture that.
You can't buy it either.
Yeah. You can't put that in a before and after photo, but actually that's the stuff that will stay with that individual forever. You know, if you can help somebody change their mindset and their belief pattern, that will last a lifetime. Any idiot can get somebody to drop a few pounds on the scales, and it's the same with what you're doing from the film perspective. Anybody can theoretically put somebody in front of a camera, or put them in the editing room and what have you. But if you can change somebody's beliefs so that they actually feel like they belong there, and they have the confidence to put themselves out there to get future roles, that's massive. That's life-changing stuff that literally could be the difference between somebody forever just being at a mediocre level that they're kind of happy with, but they're not completely happy with, little unfulfilled, to suddenly living a life that they feel absolutely passionate and in love with. So I think that's fucking awesome. And I love this kind of thing where you've got people like yourself.
It's key to think like that, because like I said, no one's going to do it for you. So when I started out, my background in performance, I didn't mention, is different. So during my young years, as like a late teen, early 20s, again, like yourself, when you were younger, my focus was only personal training and coaching then. And I was an active fitness athlete and fitness model, lots of types of things like that. But I always felt to myself, I'm just posing. Where's the talent? Where's the performance? Right? And I thought to myself, I've got to show people that I can actually do more. Right. So I invested in myself, training, workshops. I read, I did research, I practiced, I did various things, as well as, natural stuff. And I would have loved this opportunity that I've given people now in these two films, because some
Yeah.
of them have said to me, "Thank you so much for the opportunity. This is a great thing for me." I'm like, it is, but please don't latch onto that only, because after this should give you the mindset to think, right, I'm hungry now. Lee's injected this enthusiasm and drive into me. What more can I do to keep upskilling and improving myself and improving my chances to become a successful performer or whatever it is in their profession? Because there's only so much one other person can bring you up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can't hold them all the time. So like I said, I would have loved if someone gave me this opportunity when I started out 5 years ago, but it wasn't there. What I'm actually doing now is actually not orthodox. No one really does what I'm doing at the moment, I've been told. It's not common, yeah, for performers to invest in the films themselves.
Mm.
You know, they're getting their co-producer credit. They've invested into the film financially, not just their skill and talent and time, but they have contributed towards the film budget.
Mm.
Now, that's not really common, but we all have a collective self-belief and we want to make something amazing. So we all put something into it, right? But I didn't have that opportunity. No one presented to me. But did that mean I just stayed in that lane and just thought, oh, I'll accept it then? I'll sit around and hope someone calls me one day and says, "Lee, you look the part. Do you want to play this? Do you want to play Jason Momoa's double?" It's not going to come to me, is it? I've had to do all these things systematically in 5 years to get to the point where people know me and talk about me, and they want to contact me and maybe work with me, whether it's a performer, whether it's a producer or a coach or a PT. But that's come from systematically going out there and being hungry and chasing it. Yeah, no one creating opportunities for you. Same thing with our PT clients. I met a lady yesterday, and I said to her, the greatest reward I have, separate to what we discussed about the mindset change, is still seeing my past clients who I don't train anymore. They just train on their own because they know what they're doing now. They're still training. Yeah. Some of them are in their 60s and 70s, and they're still going on their own. They're following the old plans. Sometimes they check in with me, but most of the time they're going there and they're doing what they need to do, because yes, it's related to the mindset, but they know that they can't rely on someone forever for that accountability. So they're now self-reliant, which is great. Yeah. And that's also the best feeling. Yeah. And when I've seen from Jackal and Hyde, some of the performers go out there and get some roles because they use Jackal and Hyde as the platform, I was like, thank God for that. You didn't just waste your time with me. You've actually applied it and really been out there and ambitious. Because if you don't, some people say they're ambitious, but are they really? Do they really chase their dreams? Do they really go for it? Not always. And that's why they tend to give up and they go back to their 9 to 5 or play it safe. So it's like anything, how much you want it. Don't get me wrong. Some of us have slightly different mindsets. I think it's similar to me, that you're just very laser focused and you're like, no, I'm doing this and I'm going to do it. Yeah. Not everyone always has that. That kind of strict disciplined mind, but if you want something enough, let's face it, you'll do anything you can to get it, right? So, and that's what I've been trying to get across to clients for years in the gym with their health and fitness goals, long term, with and without me, and then in the same in this capacity, And as you know, as an individual, when we collaborate with like-minded people, that's when we learn. Yeah. So now we're learning from one another. This is the whole.
100%.
This is the whole thing about networking and using tech and speaking to people and sharing, because it's dangerous when you think you know everything. Yeah. And I certainly don't think that. I know there's more to learn. In fact, the fact there's more to learn is what excites me.
Yeah, a phrase I love to use is you don't know what you don't know until you don't know it. And that's enough to keep, for me personally, it's enough to keep me constantly wanting to learn and further my knowledge on the areas that I'm passionate about. Because again, in order to be a good coach and to provide the best to people, I need to make sure that I know as much as physically possible. I'm never going to know everything, but I'm not one of these people that forages down one path and is like completely blinkered and is like, no, this is my confirmation bias now. Anything that contradicts that, no matter how compelling the evidence, is false. Like for me, I'm everything I do is governed by the evidence, the data. If new research comes out that actually disproves everything that I've believed till now, well, fuck it, I'm going to go and relearn all about it to make
Yeah.
sure that what I'm doing is factually correct. And I think, yeah, I think you're a fool if you allow yourself to become complacent in any capacity, but particularly when it comes to knowledge. A question I have got for you, because again, people listening to this, there may be some people listening to it that have always wanted to get into, film and TV, into the acting gig, or into being a stunt performer, and have no idea where to go. So and how to make it happen, because it is a competitive industry. What would be your top piece of advice to somebody who's kind of sat there going, I've always fancied doing a bit of acting or what have you? What would be your first sort of port of call?
The first thing everyone should do is be an extra. Yeah, they must start at the very bottom, because no one, unless they're lucky, can just walk into a cast role. Yeah. Or if they're a stunt performer and they're registered with the British Stunt Register, that takes years and tens of thousands of pounds as well. So you need to be on set, right? So the easiest way to do that is just to be an extra. Now, you may not be used much. Sometimes you sit around for long periods of time for an extra. Other times you're actually on set a lot, and you're really getting to watch and analyze what they're doing. The director, the producer, the camera crew, the lighting, the sound, the actors and whatnot. You can learn a lot from just being an extra, from your observations, right? But if you obviously want more than that, alongside that, like anything, you must upskill and you must do workshops. So you must go to some form of acting class, or have online teacher once in a while. You must read. I mean, reading any type of literature of any field, discipline in the world, you will become more self-learning, right? So you must read, and you must reach out to people you know in the industry to try and share and absorb their knowledge and experience, because there's only so much you can learn from being on set as an extra. There's only so much you can learn from a workshop or an acting coach. But immersing yourself with those like-minded people will also bring the life experience from it, In terms of if you want to be a stunt performer, like I mentioned, there are two routes. That some people will say there's only one. There is not. To make it very clear, in the UK, as we know, the UK likes to try to regulate and govern things in a way that it means that they can monopolize that. Yeah. So I'll give you an example. A few years ago, if you wanted to just be a labourer on a building site, you could just rock up, they'll pay you a day rate, and you do your job. Yeah. But no, the government wanted to try to make more money from those people, so they introduced that CSCS card, whatever it is, yeah, to try to regulate it. Okay. Yeah. So that was another way for them to try and say, you must prove that you can pick up a tool and do basic labouring, and you must pay for the privilege of that card, right? It's the same thing with the SIA license in the security industry, to a certain extent, yeah?
Yeah.
If you look at the stunts world, I always use a similar reference. So we have what's called the British Stunt Register in the UK, okay? And it's an institution that's been going for decades, and they will say to aspiring stunt performers, unless you're registered with us, you cannot perform stunts in the UK. All right, that is not true. If you are very skilled, you could be an amazing ex-circus performer, gymnast, horse rider, you name it. If you are exceptionally skilled at that discipline and you're insured, you are able to do a stunt on a film set. The only reason why you couldn't do a stunt on a film set is because the British Stunt Register stunt coordinator would have an issue that you're not registered with them. But that's just a subjective personal thing. That's not anything to do with your ability, your skill, your confidence, your insurance. It's just bias, really. Yeah. So I'm not trying to slag them off, because I'm not here to do that sort of thing, but I just want people to know that they don't have to get in tens of thousands of pounds of debt and be with one institution to perform stunts on a film. So for example, Jekyll and Hyde and Dead Zero, we have our own independent stunt coordinator working with us. We are insured, we're able to do the stunts, we've got the necessary safety precautions and everything we need to do those stunts. Yeah. It would be no different if I said to you, we're going to do Dead Zero in France. It'd be the same thing, Belgium or anywhere, yeah? So some of my stunt trainee performers who are still trying to get on the British Stunt Register, they're struggling to show, look, I was in a real film doing that stunt. So in this film, they're able to do that because they're being directed and monitored and looked after by a stunt coordinator, and they're insured to do that. And they're physically able to do it as well. Yeah. So you've got those two options there. You can go down the independent route, like myself. You could be independent performer and be insured. And of course, you can do various training. You can go to a wire experience day. You can do fire day. You can do high fall days. There are people in the UK that you can find online who do these experiences for you. So you can learn how to do that stuff. It doesn't mean you can tick it off and go, I am an expert at that. That's like saying you had one driving lesson and you can drive a car. Yeah. So,
or equally, then you've passed your driving test, so you can drive an F1 car.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like, take it with a pinch of salt. But ultimately, like anything in life, you have to learn and relearn and have skill refinement. Yeah. However, if like for example, there's independent projects, like I've just said for my film, for stunts or any other type of indie project, even UK or abroad, as long as you're insured and you can prove that you can do that stunt, you've got some type of evidence in training or reference, you're able to do that. So like I mentioned, might be some people out there thinking, well, I'm quite a accomplished horse rider. You'd be surprised, they could actually get booked on set to be a rider. They don't have to be part of the stunt register. They just need to demonstrate what their skills are and their background. Yeah. Same thing for elite swimmers or high divers. Do you see what I mean? Motocross riders, martial arts people. Sometimes they book people in films for fight choreo because they are, fucking sick with different type of weapon systems or hand-to-hand combat. But are they a stunt trainee? No, they've just been doing that discipline for 30 years or 20 years. Yeah. So, and they've got black belts beyond belief. So that's how I can try explain it there to people for stunts. Obviously, with acting, it's very different, very different. And acting, unlike stunts, because stunts at some point, we mentioned about bodybuilding and physique and powerlifting, there'll be a cutoff because your body just can't take it anymore. There is an element of that to stunts as well. You may have to, as you go into your 40s and 50s, reevaluate doing some of the dangerous stunts. You can still do like fighting and holding guns and that type of thing. But with acting, that's obviously, you could be an actor till you die.
Yeah.
You just need to remember your lines. But if you start to lose your memory, that's going to be a problem, right? So for people like when it gets acting side of things, as I mentioned, be an extra first. Yeah. Learn being on set and set etiquette. How things work on a set, what's expected of you, the call times, they're early starts, very early, they're very long days, there's lots sitting around, it's boring. But there'll be moments where you get magic, and sometimes as an extra you might get upgraded, they might leave a little feature, maybe a couple of lines. It's really how much do you want it, so. And then with the acting aspect, you don't have to go to drama school. You don't. There are many actors in this world, very successful, British or not British, who didn't go to drama school at all. Yeah. Give you a few examples. Idris Elba, Tom Cruise, who else we got? Sean Connery. Yeah. These people were like, they thought in their mind, I can do this. I'm not stupid. I'm confident. I'll learn. So they read, they had acting coaches, they did research, they did the shit jobs at the bottom. They worked their way up, and then the rest is history for them, right? So it's just a process of learning, self-learning, which I think, as you know, with regards to PT kind of is key. Self-learning, and then very quickly you can start to navigate and think, right, okay, so I'm starting to find out what my strengths are, what my weaknesses are, what my likes are, what my dislikes are. So for me, I'm not confident doing comedy acting, but I'm very confident doing action. So I'm staying in my lane for now where I feel most comfortable. It doesn't mean at some point in time in the future that I might divert and try the comedy or try drama or something different to challenge myself. But right now I'm happy where I'm at. So, but that takes time. And you've probably read or heard quotes where it says, anything in life to see real traction takes 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you think, oh, 6 to 12 months stint is long enough to really work out for yourself, no, it's not. Unless somehow you've got unbelievable luck and you've got a look that someone just thinks, oh my God, they're amazing. I need to upgrade them to an actor like Brad Pitt when he was young. I don't know if you heard about it, he was on film set. And the director spotted him and going, who's that guy? He was just standing around waiting for his friend. He wasn't even booked on the set.
Yeah.
He kind of started off as an extra, but he had a good look, but that was luck as well. But don't forget, Brad still had to learn to be an actor. He couldn't you can't just wing things your whole life. So I think
Don't tell me that.
Sorry,
don't tell me that.
Well, you know what I mean.
You
You know what I mean. Like, obviously, to an extent, you can. But obviously, there'll be some point where you need to look at yourself and go, right, I'm lacking the understanding or confidence here or skill. So what do I need to do to change that? And usually that's through self-learning and outsourcing. Yeah. Whether that, like for you and me as PT and coaches, what do those people come to us? They come to us for our mentoring and training and guidance. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're an aspiring actor or stunt performer, you go to those appropriate people to try and get the skills, the knowledge, experience. Hopefully you won't get ripped off and conned, because there are a lot of people out there just preying on people's vulnerability. It's the same thing with fitness industry. You know, there are a lot of scammers out there. But 9 times out of 10, if you do your research and whatnot, you'll find the right people. And from their knowledge and experience and wisdom and your own self-learning and what you have in your head, it's normally enough to go forward. But you must be patient. I think really, I'm probably going on too much, so I apologize. But to summarize it, I would say really it's patience, ultimately. Because if I thought to myself when I started off with my self-employment nearly 5 years ago that it would happen in 1 year, I'm completely deluded.
Yeah.
You know, and then even in 2 years and 3 years, and you know, I'm really happy with my current progress in my going to my 5th year, but I know there's still more to go.
Yeah.
You know, but that's keeping me going because it's constant challenges and obstacles, and you know, it's a journey. Whereas we both refer to our old jobs, where's it going? Oh, we might get a promotion. We might, yeah. But the promotion's the same company, the same bullshit, the same processes. Oh, so and so's left, they've been fired. Oh, okay. There's some drama in the company. Okay. Oh, they're giving me a 1% pay rise. Wow. This is. Do you see where I'm going with this? Whereas, and like mentioning the reference into excitement, like for me, some people I spoke to said, "Aren't you on edge that sometimes you don't know when work's coming? Like, you know, how do you manage your income?" And I said, well, I would rather be self-employed and manage my finances through my various channels, acting, PT, coaching, and other things I do. I'd rather do that. And when I get booked for a big job, be excited for it, yeah? Rather than every week doing the same boring shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just so I know at the end of the month I've got that same paycheck. Yeah. And remember that paycheck's, it may be consistent, but it's not changing. So 1 month I could earn, let's say hypothetically, if I was booked on a big job, 5 grand. Yeah. Just from that. Yeah. And then I've got other work as well. Right. Whereas that person who's on their stable income, that's all they're getting. And they're still unhappy to get that money. The only thing that brings them brief joy in that month is their paycheck.
Yeah. And
then they've also, when it's gone, because unless they're earning a lot of money, they don't have much left over because of the cost of living in the UK. They've got no other money because they haven't invested their money and skills and whatnot into other things, unless they're savvy. Some people, yes, there might be Bitcoin and they might do this. But let's face it, a lot of people just kind of stick to their paycheck.
Yeah, mate, I 100%. I was making ridiculous money in the corporate world when I look back at it, and I never really had spare money because as it came in, it went out. I didn't really say no to a lot of things, but I didn't have. It's not like I could look around and go, look at all of this that I've got to show for all the money that I'm making. It was just a case of like, I ate out a lot. I went to a lot of gigs.
You buy things you don't need, basically.
Yeah, 100%. And you just kind of sit there and you think, well, actually, yes, on paper there's lots of money coming in, but I'm not you don't sit there and think, oh yeah, look, I've got so much to show for it. It probably doesn't help that I'm terrible with money, and I'd like to spend it before I've got it. But yeah, I think you're quite right. People fall into that comfort blanket that comes, that safety net that comes from knowing that you've got an element of security. But what are you trading off to get that security? Well, you're giving up minimum 5 days.
It's your life.
Minimum 5 days a week for the next 50 plus years.
And if you have children, you also don't see your children.
Yeah.
For that money, yeah. Now, obviously, people on the flip side can say, yeah, but Lee, if you're booked on a film project for a few weeks, you're not seeing your son. And I said, that's true. However, when I'm not doing that, I see him all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that can be on the flip side for women as well, because some women go back to work and the man stays at home. Yeah. So I'm not just generalizing for men only. For me, it's, even if I didn't have a child, I would still want time to myself. And in an employed job, if you have a good employed job that pay you a lot of money, what do they expect from you? They expect you to be on call 24/7, even on holiday. They'll contact you on holiday. Yeah. My company did it. I'd be on holiday and they ring me up saying, oh, this client, blah, blah. I'm like, fuck off. I'm on holiday.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Go away.
Yeah. I had the same. I booked a 2-week holiday, I think it was, to Thailand. And before I left, because I was working on a massive deal with a housing association in Scotland, you taking your phone with you so you can keep an eye on the deal? No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Well, it needs to come in whilst you're away. I'm like, well, the people in the office better do a fucking good job then.
Yeah, exactly.
And funnily enough, they didn't. Came back.
But the irony of that is that because they're paying you that money, they own you. Yeah. And I think some people don't realize they're being owned and controlled by their employer, you know. And I remember speaking to employers about different packages and what they'd offer me for holiday, and I thought 28 days, 31 days, whatever you maybe offer. No, I want to go on holiday when I want to go. Like, I don't want to ask your permission. I don't want to book it. I don't want to pay for extra holiday. I don't want to roll it over. Like, who are you to tell me what I can and can't do? But then other people would argue, yeah, but they're paying you. It's like, yeah, but they don't own you. They're hiring you. Yeah. This is the key difference. You're being hired. You're not a slave, or you're not being bought as property, but that's how they treat you. So when you're self-employed, you can self-govern and don't have that bullshit. But there are, like anything, there are risks to self-employment as a business owner, independent one-man band, of course. But then that teaches you to be a better with your finances generally. Yeah, you should do. But this is the key thing. I think if we took money out of the equation, everyone would pursue their dreams and aspirations. Yeah. But of course, because of life and pressures and responsibilities, some are less likely to do that. But I think it's a real shame in life when people can't commit themselves to something for 3 to 5 years out of fear that they'll ruin their whole life. Yeah. And as long as they're not too old, money can be earned back. Yeah. Obviously, you don't. If you're renting still when you're in your 60s, 70s, perhaps you shouldn't pursue a career, because you may leave yourself vulnerable, because you can't really work off debt if you're old and retired. But certainly for people under 60, and particularly our age group, 20s to 30s, you've got a little bit of time still, you know. And I'm also trying to show my son, who's 4, as he gets older, daddy does anything he wants to do in life. And you can do the same thing as well. There are risks and we must be cautious, but if you don't go for those things, it will never happen, right? And it's trying to echo that to clients, to performer colleagues and whatnot, the same kind of mindset and mantra that if you believe in yourself like that, we'll do it, and that's why we've got the first film under wraps, and now we've got the second one, and hopefully more to come. And I naturally welcome more people to the table when that time comes. So,
mate, I love that. Absolutely love that. And I think it's a really good place to kind of wrap things up as well, to be fair. I think it's a really strong message in terms of, yes, I appreciate people who are kind of in employment, they're kind of foraging their route, may look at us with a degree of resentment into, oh, it's easy for you. It's easy for you. It wasn't easy for me to walk away from a 6-figure salary with a double OTE to become self-employed, where my first month's paycheck was going to be about 500 quid. It wasn't easy. It was just, it was a necessary, it was a necessary challenge to take on in order to get to where I wanted to get to. Same with you in the movie industry, and what you've achieved with the first film and what you're going through for the second film. If you looked at all the obstacles and you went, that's going to be really fucking difficult, I won't do it, you'd never achieve it. The reality is you've got to make yourself a bit uncomfortable in the life that you've got to get the life that you want. And if you're not prepared to do that, well, then you're never going to get to where you want to be on that side of things. And I think you're a great example of this. Your professional career in terms of PT into the corporate world, out of the corporate world to PT to films, and you demonstrate that actually if you want something enough and you dedicate yourself to it, you can do it. And again, I think some people think that when you say the phrase dedicate yourself to it, it means that it's going to have to be a really unpleasant experience. Like, you're living proof, as hopefully people think I am as well, of actually if you dedicate yourself to something that you enjoy, the process, even the difficult bits, are fucking enjoyable. And you create a life that you love, building the life that you want, as opposed to never being able to achieve the the lifestyle that you actually want because you're building somebody else's. So I think there's so much.
Just those life experiences as well. Remember, feeling alive. That's all it is. Yeah, feeling
100%. I would much rather, when I'm an old man struggling to remember who I am and who my family are, I'd much rather be able to sit there and think to myself, oh, do you remember the time that I did this? Do you remember the time that I did that? Rather than, do you remember the 35 years I got up at 7:30 and went to the office? Like that never sets my soul on fire. Whereas I'm creating experiences, memories, and thankfully I'm making some money off the back of it from that side of things. But mate, today has been absolutely amazing. We'll get you on again.
Thank you for having me. I just want to quickly say, sorry, just for your listeners, thank you for listening. Obviously, if you have listened to the whole thing, if anyone is a horror fan listening and watching, and they quite like to be a zombie for the day, in the film we are selling some experience days as a zombie. So if anyone is interested, you can come get full prosthetics and makeup. Just message us on the Dead Zero page on Instagram, or me personally, like I mentioned, Lee the artist, and then we can maybe get some people on board, because I know some people would like to mess around.
Definitely.
Yeah, they don't have to be an actor; it could be just a literally die-hard fan. So,
mate, I love that. And again, just to wrap up, as I always do, you mentioned it there, but just one more time for those listening, where can they find you on social media?
Yeah, so obviously PT and coaching is Omega One Fitness, which is one word, and then for the acting and filmmaking, it's Lee AD Artist, all one word.
Amazing, mate. This has been absolutely awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll get you on again. We'll get you on once the film's finished. We'll get you on and we'll see how it's going. But I'm sure you're going to smash it. I can't wait to see it. And thanks for coming on, and thanks for everybody. Cheers to that. Yeah, mine's gone.
Thank you.
but yeah, thanks for that. And guys, we'll be back again next week with another episode with another epic guest. But thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.